What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. Last week seems to have been the week of the bank Trojans, as you'll see by the recurring theme in many of these news articles.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
We start off with phishing. The Flubot banking Trojan is using a fake security warning to trick Android users into thinking they're already infected with Flubot. But it's a lie, it's a fake. It will become a reality if recipients of the text message fall for it and click on the Install Security Update button or install the app for tracking a package. Now, Flubot, also called Pegasus, is an Android banking malware or banking Trojan that is pushed by cybercriminals in large-scale campaigns targeting consumers across Europe this spring. It's also reached out to New Zealand as well. There's also been seen in the United States, Great Britain, etc., to varying degrees. Flubot works in a malware as a service model, being sold in underground forums by the operators to criminal groups. The actors behind the Flubot botnet sending smishing, or stands for SMS phishing, messages with fake notices of upcoming package deliveries and urge the victim to follow a link to track the shipment. So you have a few different variants of what messages they use or tricks they try to get you to follow. One is you track a package that you're going to be getting. Another one is your phone has been infected with Flubot. Click here to install a security update. The landing page then presents a download button supposedly required to track the package, in the case of trying to trick you through saying there is a package. In the case of a security update, it would say, install the security update, click this button. Now, after a victim falls for this social engineering trick, Flubot is downloaded to the mobile device, and it requests various permissions, including access to the contact list, sending SMS messages, and overlaying other applications. Users who click on the link but didn't download anything likely didn't trigger a Flubot infection. However, it is strongly recommended that such users, that if you get the text message, you change all your online account passwords and contact your banks just to be on the safe side. The same goes for users who entered personal information into a form. For example, if it asks you to enter in your bank information to be able to, make online purchases or track a package or whatever, particularly your payment card details, you need to change your passwords and you need to contact your bank to check for unusual activity. Now, these types of SMS phishing scams are known as smishing, and they're far from new. In February, attackers were harvesting personal data of users in the UK with fake messages promising tax refunds for overpayment. Mobile phishing has been a booming business since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, experts say, and is expected to keep growing. Why? Because people are working from home. Now, if you have, or in case you have not seen my episode on phishing, the link is above, and it's pinned in the comment section below, and will be in the credits at the end of this video. Now, I highly recommend you watch that video if you haven't already. I discuss the most prevalent types of phishing campaigns, including smishing and vishing, and how to spot them. So check it out, of course, after you watch this episode. Now, if you've been infected, you're going to have to do a full factory reset as soon as possible because you're infected and they're trying to steal your information. Now, you're going to have to delete all of your phone's data. Restoring from backups is unfortunately off the table, they say. Do not restore from backups created after installing the app, if you can remember when that was. Now, you want to seek services of a qualified IT professional if you require assistance. Now, also change all online passwords, particularly to online bank accounts, and again, contact your bank if you see suspicious activity. Next up, security researchers from Malwarebytes uncovered multiple attacks targeting many Russian organizations, including JSC GREC Makeyev, a company that develops liquid and solid fuel for Russia's ballistic missiles and space rocket program. Threat actors behind the cyber espionage campaign orchestrated spear-phishing attacks, and the messages sent to the target organizations used weaponized office documents. Spear-phishing is also one of the types of phishing I talk about in my episode on phishing. The documents were crafted to exploit the CVE-2021-26084 Internet Explorer flaw and posed to be sent by the company's HR department. Now, the CVE 2021-26084 is the MS-HTML vulnerability that I also did an episode on. Recently, Microsoft has warned of multiple threat actors, including ransomware operators, that are exploiting the recently patched Windows MS HTML remote code execution security flaw CVE-2021-26084 in attacks against organizations. Well, the IT giant says that threat actors started targeting this issue in August before Microsoft shared mitigation for this vulnerability. Threat actors used weaponized Office documents. The campaigns observed in August 2021 likely employed emails impersonating contracts and legal agreements. The messages used documents that were hosted on file-sharing sites. Now, Malwarebytes observed multiple attacks exploiting the same MS HTML vulnerability aimed at Russian entities. Again, I did an episode on this vulnerability as well, so check it out if you have not already. The link is above and pinned in the comment section below. Next up, ArmorBlock's researchers have spotted an ongoing credential phishing attack that spoofs an encrypted Zix email, one coming, weirdly enough, from what looks like a legitimate domain associated with the Baptist religion. At least, the threat actor is sending the phishing attacks from thefullgospelbaptist.com, a domain that might be a deprecated or old version of a legitimate Baptist domain, fullgospelbaptist.org, which is a religious organization established in 1994. In a Tuesday post, researchers said that to date, the fake Zix encrypted mail has targeted close to 75,000 inboxes and has slipped past embedded spam and security controls across Office 365, Google Workspace, Exchange, Cisco ESA, and others. The attack is targeting a range of companies across sectors, including state and local government, education, financial services, healthcare, and energy, selectively going after a mix of senior executives and cross-department employees. Zix is a key player in the email encryption market, right up there with Cisco Systems, Trend Micro, Proofpoint, Sophos, and Norton LifeLock et al. Building on the name recognition alone helps the email to pass a sniff test, and it should rightfully flunk. But beyond the brand name alone, the email attack also uses a gamut of additional techniques to evade traditional security filters and to pass the eye test of unsuspecting end users, ArmorBlocks explain, including social engineering, exploiting a legitimate-looking Baptist domain, and replication of existing workflows. The subject header is Secure Zix Message. The email body's header reiterates that title and tells the intended victim that they've received a secure Zix message. Click on the message button to check it out, the email instructs. Clicking on the message link in the email will trigger an attempted drive-by download of an HTML file named Secure Message. ArmorBlock's researchers couldn't open that file in their virtual machine instance since that's not where the redirect appeared. Now, techniques used in the campaign include social engineering through the email title, the design, and content aimed to induce a sense of trust and urgency in the victims. Brand impersonation. The email has HTML stylings and content disclaimers similar to real emails from Zix. Exploiting legitimate domain. Again, the parent domain of the email sender was a deprecated or old version of a legitimate domain, thefullgospelbaptist.com. We move on to patches. Google this week rolled out urgent security updates for the Chrome browser to address 4 security flaws, including 2 new zero-day vulnerabilities that are being exploited in the wild. Google has addressed a total of 5 zero-day flaws in September, while the total number of zero days fixed since the start of the year is 14. The 2 zero-day vulnerabilities fixed in the last turn are tracked as CVE-2021-37975 and CVE-2021-37976. The Google Threat Analysis Group focuses on investigations into government-tracked attacks. It is likely that CVE-2021-37976 was discovered while the experts were investigating a campaign carried out by a nation-state actor. Google has addressed a total of 14 zero-day vulnerabilities in Google Chrome since the start of the year, as I said like 3 sentences ago. Trend Micro has released security patches to address a critical authentication bypass vulnerability tracked as CVE-2021-36745 that affects the Trend Micro ServerProtec product. Trend Micro ServerProtec offers comprehensive, real-time protection for enterprise infrastructure, preventing them from being targeted by viruses, spyware, and other web threats. A remote attacker can exploit the vulnerability to bypass authentication on vulnerable installs. The issue received a CVSS score of 9.8 out of 10. The vulnerability was reported by Yuto Maeda from Cyber Defense Institute through Trend Micro's zero-day initiative. It is due to the lack of proper validation prior to authentication. The vulnerability affects ServerProtec for Storage 6.0 for Windows, ServerProtec for EMC Solera 5.8, ServerProtec for Network Appliance Filers 5.8, and ServerProtec for Microsoft Windows Novell NetWare 5.8. This vulnerability allows remote attackers to bypass authentication on affected installations of Trend Micro ServerProtec authentication. Is not required to exploit this. Authentication is not required to exploit this vulnerability. Reads the advisory published by ZDI. The specific flaw exists within the ServerProtec console. The issue results from the lack of proper validation prior to authentication. An attacker can leverage this vulnerability to bypass authentication on the system. QNAP, the Taiwan-based maker of network-attached storage appliances, this week announced the availability of patches for a couple of critical vulnerabilities in its QVR video management solution. Tracked as CVE-2021-34348 and CVE-2021-34351, and featuring a CVS score of 9.8 out of 10, the vulnerabilities could be abused remotely to run arbitrary commands on affected systems. Additionally, the manufacturer patched CVE 2021-34349 with a CVS score of 7.2 out of 10, a high severity issue that leads to arbitrary command execution as well. Although all three security issues can be exploited remotely, CVE 2021-34349 requires for the attacker to have high privileges on the vulnerable system for successful exploitation. The critical severity flaws require no privileges. The vulnerabilities QNAP notes in its advisory only affect certain devices that have already reached their end-of-life status and are no longer available for sale. We move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. Threat actors have exploited a vulnerability in the SMS-based two-factor authentication system implemented by crypto exchange Coinbase to steal funds from more than 6,000 users. According to a data breach notification letter filed with U.S. State Attorney General offices, the attackers, with the knowledge of their username and password and phone number associated with the account, were able to steal funds bypassing the SMS-based authentication. Unfortunately, between March and May 20th, 2021, you were a victim of a third-party campaign to gain unauthorized access to the accounts of Coinbase customers and move customer funds off the Coinbase platform. At least 6,000 Coinbase customers had funds removed from their accounts, including you, reads the data breach notification letter. In order to access your Coinbase account, these third parties first needed prior knowledge of the email address, password, and phone number associated with your Coinbase account, as well as access to your personal email inbox. Once again, we see that crypto is a very secure technology. But again, the platforms that are incorporating it, like these these wallets, digital wallets, platforms like Coinbase, they themselves can have flaws that allow crypto to be stolen from you and filtered through to the cybercriminals. So be careful. Attackers exploited a flaw in Coinbase's SMS account recovery process to receive an SMS two-factor authentication token. Once the campaign was discovered, the company updated its SMS account recovery protocols. So here we see what the issue was. Attackers exploited a flaw in Coinbase's SMS account recovery process. So it's not just that they had your information, but there was a flaw in Coinbase that allowed this to happen. The company has yet to determine how attackers obtained the above information. They likely gained access to the data through phishing attacks anyway. It excluded that they obtained the data from the company itself. That's what they say, but it's 6,000 people's information through phishing attacks. Little questionable whether or not that's how the data was acquired. We have not found any evidence that these third parties obtained this information from Coinbase itself, the company continues. The cryptocurrency exchange announced it'll reimburse all impacted users and already started to send them their refunds. Boffins from the University of Birmingham and the University of Surrey exploited a series of vulnerabilities in an attack against iPhone owners using Apple Pay and Visa payment cards. The researchers explained that the attack could allow an unauthenticated attacker to steal money from the targeted iPhone when it is configured to use Apple Pay and a Visa card in transit mode. Experts pointed out the attack also works against locked iPhones. Before going deep into the attack, we introduced the Express Transit Express Travel feature implemented in Apple Pay, which allows users to make a payment without having authorized the payment with Face ID or Touch ID. This feature could be very useful while paying for public transportation. Yeah, okay, of course. You just walk through the turnstile and it contacts your phone and rips the money out. But that's the good side. The bad side is it can be exploited by attackers to steal money right out of your bank. The researchers attempted to simulate a similar scenario and emulate a ticket barrier transaction by using a Proxmark device acting as a card reader communicating with the target iPhone, and an Android phone with an NFC chip acting as a card emulator that communicated with a payment terminal. And we've definitely seen this kind of attack and this kind of exploit in one of my either previous weeklies or a previous daily that I did, where went into greater detail as to exactly how they put the emulator together, with the Android phone and capturing the card, etc. In the attack scenario, hackers hold the reader emulator close to the targeted phone, so they got to get it right up to that phone when it's in your butt pocket. The attack devised by the researchers is an active man-in-the-middle replay and relay attack. The Proxmark replays the magic bytes to the iPhone to trick it into believing that it's a ticket gate transaction that doesn't require any user action to authorize the payment. In order to carry out the attack, the experts enabled offline data authentication for online transactions through specific settings. This step was necessary because some readers may have intermittent connectivity, e.g. transit system entries. The researchers were also able to steal an amount of money over the limit of the contactless card transactions. So you're not talking about $250 or $275 or whatever the current subway cost is wherever you are. They published a video proof of concept that demonstrates that it was possible to steal £1,000 or $1,300 from a locked phone. The attack does not work in if Apple Pay is used with MasterCards. The experts shared their findings with both Visa and Apple and also provided recommendations on how to mitigate the attack. Both companies have yet to fix the vulnerabilities exploited by the experts because they believe that the attack method proposed by the researchers is impractical in the real world. Now, we've seen that and heard that from Apple security and Apple IT in the past few weeks. And what did we see, especially with Pegasus? If you recall, I mentioned that in a couple of my episodes. And only a few weeks later, they came out with patches for Pegasus. So right now, of course, it may be impractical, but give an attacker an opportunity and to make something and then make it less expensive and again less expensive, and pretty soon you'll have it happening all the time. So Apple, fix it. Come on. Telecom Italia Red Team Research, or RTR Laboratory, led by Massimiliano Brolli, reported 3 new vulnerabilities affecting Oracle Glassfish and Nokia NetAct, as reported on the online projects page. 2 vulnerabilities affected Nokia NetAct, a mobile network management system offering a centralized view of multi-technology networks as 5G, 4G, 3G, and 2G. The system offers built-in management of all the best daily operations without interruptions, including configuration management, monitoring, and software management. NetAct supports network elements in both radio mobile and core network, Wi-Fi, IoT, public security, and telco cloud. The last vulnerability has been found in Glassfish, an Oracle product that offers full support to Java EE8 specifications. It is the reference implementation, with last API versions for technologies as Java Servlet 4, Java Server Pages, JSP 2.3, Enterprise Java Beans or EJB 3.2, Java Persistence API or JPA 2.1. The vulnerabilities have been discovered by Red Team researchers, and promptly reported to the respective vendors, where the relevant CVEs were subsequently issued, then published in National Vulnerability Database of the United States of America, and finally listed in NIST. First one, CVE-2021-26087, Nokia NetAct vulnerability description is unrestricted upload of file with dangerous type. CWE-434, software version, Nokia NetAct 8.A is affected. Next one, CVE 2021-26596, Nokia NetAct again. Vulnerability description, improper neutralization of input during web page generation. Or stored cross-site scripting. CWE79, software version affected, Nokia NetAct 18A. CVE 2021-3314, Oracle Glassfish server. The vulnerability description is improper neutralization of input during web page generation. Cross-site scripting. Again, CWE 79. The software version for Glassfish is 3.1.2.18. So the Glassfish, or unsupported when assigned Oracle Glassfish server 3.1.2.18 flaw, and that version and below, allows common log viewer or logviewer.jsf cross-site scripting. A malicious user can cause an administrator to supply dangerous content to the vulnerable page, which is then reflected back to the user and executed by the web browser. The most common mechanism for delivering malicious content is to include it as a parameter in a URL that is publicly posted or sent via email to victims. Note, this vulnerability only affects products that are no longer supported by the maintainer. So these are older versions of Glassfish. Experts warn of a malware campaign targeting European e-banking platform users with the Hydra banking Trojan. According to malware researchers from Malware Hunter Team and Cybel, the new campaign mainly impacted the customers of Commerzbank, Germany's second largest bank. Hydra is an Android banking bot that has been active at least since early 2019. Threat actors set up a page posing as the official Commerzbank page and registered multiple domains on the same IP. Crooks used a fake website to spread the tainted Commerzbank apps. According to Cybel researchers, Hydra continues to evolve. The variant employed in the recent campaign incorporates TeamViewer functionality similar to Sova Android banking Trojan and leverages different encryption techniques to evade detection along with the use of Tor for communication. The new version is also able to disable the Play Protect Android security feature. The experts warn that the malware requests for two extremely dangerous permissions, bind accessibility permission and bind device admin. The accessibility service is a background service that aids users with disabilities, while bind accessibility service permission allows the app to access the accessibility service. The malware asks for other permissions to carry out malicious activities such as access to SMS content, sending SMSs, performing calls, modifying device settings, spying on user activities, sending bulk SMSs to victims' contacts, and more. The analysis of the code revealed that various classes are missing in the APK file. The malicious code uses a custom packer to evade signature-based detection. The attack against Neiman Marcus Group took place in May 2021. As a result of the attack, threat actors had access to customers' information, including payment card data. Well, in case you didn't know, Neiman Marcus got hacked. Exposed personal information includes names and contact information, usernames, passwords, and answers to security questions associated with online accounts. The security breach impacted 4.6 million online customers, 3.1 million payment and virtual gift cards were compromised, 85% of which were either expired or invalid. The attackers had access to payment card numbers and expiration dates, while CVV numbers were not compromised. The company also added that virtual gift card numbers, PINs, were not compromised either. In response to the security breach, Neiman Marcus is requiring an online account password reset for affected customers who had not changed their passwords since May 2021. Now, in early 2014, Neiman Marcus disclosed another data breach. At the time, attackers had access to its customer data, including payment information of those who visited stores. Security researcher Bobby Rauch discovered a stored cross-site scripting vulnerability in the Apple AirTag product that can be exploited by attackers to lure users to malicious websites. Apple AirTag is a tracking device designed to act as a key finder. It allows users to find personal objects like keys, bags, apparel, small electronics, vehicles. Rauch, like other researchers recently, decided to disclose the vulnerability because Apple did not address it. Let me go back to that. You lost your car? Seriously? You need Apple AirTag to find your car? Come on. Apple AirTag Lost Mode allows a user to mark their device as missing if they have misplaced it. I misplaced my car. Now, okay, maybe in an airport, but whatever. Still, you got to know where your car is. You look at the number where you parked. Well, this generates a unique URL, which is found.apple.com page, which the AirTag info, like the serial number, the phone number, and the message from the owner, in case an individual with an iPhone or an Android device will find the missing AirTag, they can scan it using the NFC, and that opens the AirTag's unique URL page on their device. In the attack scenario described by the expert, an attacker enables lost mode for an AirTag and injects the malicious payload into the phone number field. When the victim will find the device and will scan it, the malicious payload is triggered immediately. Rauch demonstrated the attack using a payload to redirect the victim to a fake iCloud login page. Ooh, that's bad. The process to exploit the issue that was described by the expert in a post published on Medium includes an attacker sets their AirTag into lost mode. An attacker intercepts this request and injects a malicious payload into the phone number field. A victim then discovers the lost AirTag. They open up their Find My app and scan the AirTag. This opens up the generated URL found.apple.com page. The victim is immediately redirected to the malicious attacker page, which is a direct clone of one of iCloud.com login pages. The victim enters their iCloud credentials, which are immediately exfiltrated to the attacker server. The same vulnerability could be exploited in multiple ways, for example, redirecting the users to a website designed to serve malware. Since AirTags were recently released, most users would be unaware that accessing the https://found.apple.com page doesn't require authentication at all. The found.apple.com link can also be used as a phishing link and shared via a desktop laptop without the need for a mobile device to scan the AirTag. Further injection attacks could occur through the Find My app, which is used to scan third-party devices that support lost mode as part of Apple's Find My network. Threat actors are impersonating the group Amnesty International and promising to protect against the Pegasus spyware as part of a scheme to deliver malware. Amnesty International recently made international headlines when it released a groundbreaking report on the widespread use of Pegasus to target international journalists and activists. Adversaries have set up a phony website that looks like Amnesty International's, which is a human rights-focused non-governmental organization, and it points to a promised antivirus tool to protect against the NSO group's Pegasus tool. However, the download actually installs a little-known SolarWinds malware. SolarWinds contains the usual abilities of a remote access tool, or RAT, mainly serving as a backdoor on the victim machine, and can also activate the remote desktop protocol on the victim machine, potentially allowing the adversary to access the desktop directly. Now, the malicious software being deployed is not a standard information stealer that, once executed, steals credentials and exploits them immediately. In this case, SolarWinds has a look and feel that could easily be recognized as a regular antivirus program. It provides the attacker with the means to upload and execute any other malicious tools. Likewise, it can exfiltrate any kind of data from the victim's computer. Now, the campaign targets people who might be concerned that they're targeted by Pegasus spyware. This targeting raises issues of possible state involvement, but there is insufficient information available to Talos to make any determination on which state or nation. It is possible that this is simply a financially motivated actor looking to leverage headlines to gain new access. 14 top Androids with 142.5 million installs are misconfigured, leaving their data exposed to unauthorized parties. 9 of the 14 popular Android apps are still potentially leaking the data of more than 30.5 million users. Firebase is the cross-platform tool which suggests that Firebase misconfigurations affect their iOS versions as well. If you have an Android app installed on your smartphone, there is a high chance it's using Firebase. With an active monthly base of more than 2.5 million apps, Firebase is a mobile application development platform that offers a multitude of useful features, including analytics, hosting, and real-time cloud storage. Cybernews decided to analyze over 1,000 top apps on Google Play and see how many were storing their data on Firebase real-time databases insecurely. What their investigation team discovered was eye-opening. 14 top apps with 142.5 million installs were suffering from Firebase misconfigurations, which enabled them and anyone else who knows the right URL to access their real-time databases and all the user information stored without any kind of authentication. Although they only looked at top Android apps on the Google Play Store, Firebase is platform agnostic. This means that iOS apps that use Firebase might be affected by these misconfigurations as well. On September 14th, Cybernews researchers reported their findings to Google and asked them to help the developers of the exposed apps secure their real-time databases. Google has as of yet, ignored the request. As a result, 9 of the 14 popular Android apps which have not responded to requests and could only be secured with assistance from Google, are still leaking data of more than 30.5 million users. Apps investigated include Universal Remote Control with over 100 million downloads, Remote for Roku, which is from Codematics, with more than 1 million installs, Hybrid Warrior Dungeon of the Overlord with over 1 million installs, and Find My Kids, a child cell phone location tracking app. They actually turned off their Firebase database, so at least the kids are safe. Trend Micro researchers have spotted crypto mining campaigns that are actively exploiting a recently disclosed critical remote code execution vulnerability in Atlassian Confluence deployments across Windows and Linux. At the end of August, Atlassian released security patches to address the critical CVE-2021-26084 flaw that affects the Confluence Enterprise Collaboration product. The flaw is an OGNL injection issue that can be exploited by an authenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code on affected Confluence server and data center instances. An OGNL injection vulnerability exists that would allow an authenticated user, and in some instances unauthenticated user, to execute arbitrary code on a Confluence server or data center instance, read the advisory published by the company. The issue was discovered by Benny Jacob, known as Snowy Owl, through the Atlassian Public Bug Bounty Program. The vulnerability received a CVEs score of 9.8 out of 10. An attacker could trigger the issue by simply sending a specially crafted HTTP request containing a malicious parameter to a vulnerable install. Researchers from threat intelligence firm Bad Packets also detected mass scanning and exploit activity targeting Atlassian Confluence servers vulnerable to the above RCE. Now, Trend Micro researchers shared technical details of the vulnerability and published a report for a cryptocurrency mining campaign distributing Z0 Miner. The security researcher Jose Rodriguez, also known as at vBaraquito, I guess his Twitter handle, discovered a new lock screen vulnerability for iOS 15 and iOS 14.8 that has yet to be addressed by Apple. A threat actor with physical access to a vulnerable device can access notes via Siri voice over. Rodriguez explained that in real incidents, unattended or stolen devices with a lock screen bypass vulnerability are exposed to attacks that could leverage a lock screen vulnerability to access sensitive information. This specific type of vulnerability represents a serious threat to individuals and organizations. For this reason, the experts suggest including their research when conducting a mobile pen test assessment. The expert disclosed details about the lock screen bypass vulnerability after Apple downplayed similar flaws, tracked as CVE-2021-1835 and CVE-2021-30699, reported by the researcher earlier this year. The flaws allowed an attacker to access instant messaging apps like WhatsApp or Telegram even while the mobile device was locked. Rodriguez explained that Apple partially fixed the issue and did not involve him in the test of the released patch. Then, the expert proposed a variant of the same bypass issue that leverages Apple's Siri and voice-over services to access the Notes app. The threat actors behind the notorious SolarWinds supply chain attacks have dispatched new malware to steal data and maintain persistence on victims' networks, researchers have found. Researchers from Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, or MSTIC, have observed the apt it calls Nobelium using a post-exploitation backdoor dubbed FoggyWeb to attack Active Directory Federation Services servers. ADFS enables single sign-on across cloud-based apps in a Microsoft environment by sharing digital identity and entitlement rights. The attack started as far back as April, Ramin Nafizi from MSTIC wrote in a blog post published Monday. Nobelium is employing multiple tactics to pursue credential theft to gain admin privileges to ADFS servers, Nafisi wrote. Then, once a server is compromised, the threat group deploys FoggyWeb to remotely exfiltrate the configuration database of compromised ADFS servers, decrypted token signing certificates, and token decryption certificates, he said, which can then be used to penetrate into users' cloud accounts. In addition to remotely exfiltrating sensitive data, FoggyWeb also achieves persistence and communicates with a command and control server to receive additional malicious components and execute them, Nafisi's added. Nafisi provides a thorough breakdown of the sophisticated FoggyWeb backdoor, which operates by allowing abuse of the security assertion markup language, SAML, token in ADFS, and he explained in the post. The backdoor configures HTTP listeners for actor-defined URIs that mimic the structure of the legitimate URIs used by the target's ADFS deployment. The custom listeners passively monitor all incoming HTTP GET and POST requests sent to the ADFS server from the intranet or internet and intercept HTTP requests that match the custom URI patterns defined by the actor. Security researchers from Zimperium have uncovered a piece of malware dubbed GriftHorse that has infected more than 10 million Android smartphones across more than 70 countries. According to the experts, the malware campaign has been active since at least November 2020. Threat actors are spreading via apparently harmless apps that were uploaded to the official Google Play Store and third-party Android app stores. Operators behind the campaign are carrying out a global premium services Trojan campaign. The malicious code subscribes the owners of infected devices to paid services, charging a premium amounting to around €36 per month. The users are bombarded with alerts on the screen that inform them that they have won a prize and ask them to accept the invitation to receive it. The victims are bombarded with pop-ups that reappear no less than 5 times per hour. Superium researchers pointed out that GriftHorse coders invested a significant effort in developing high-quality code. They also used wide spectrum of websites, over 200 Trojan applications, to infect the largest number of users as possible, remaining under the radar. Malware researchers at Kaspersky have spotted a new improvement of the infamous commercial FinSpy surveillance spyware, also known as Wingbird. It can now hijack and replace the Windows UEFI Unified Extensible Firmware Interface bootloader to infect the target machines. Replacing the UEFI bootloader allows that attackers to install a bootkit that could not be detected security solutions running on the machine, and could not be detected by security solutions running on the machine, and allows the malware to gain persistence on the infected systems. Kaspersky experts shared the results of an 8-month investigation into FinSpy spyware at the Security Analyst Summit 2021. The researchers uncovered 4-layer obfuscation and advanced anti-analysis measures employed by the authors that currently make FinFisher one of the hardest to detect spywares to date. Kaspersky experts pointed out that the FinFisher variant they detected did not infect the UEFI firmware itself. The attackers replaced the Windows boot manager, or boot mgfw.efi, with a malicious one to infect the machine. Unlike previous FinSpy versions, the new samples leverage 2 components to prevent malware analysis: a non-persistent pre-validator and a post-validator. The former ensures that the victim machine is not used for malware analysis. The latter is a persistent implant used to ensure that the victim is the intended one. The experts also observe that when the spyware targets machines that do not support UEFI, the infections involve the use of the MBR, Master Boot Record. A working exploit for CVE-2021-26085 vulnerability in VMware vCenter is publicly available, and attackers are already attempting to use it in the wild. VMware recently addressed the critical arbitrary file upload vulnerability, CVE-2021-26085. It impacts appliances running default vCenter Server 6.7 and 7.0 deployments. vCenter Server is the centralized management utility for VMware and is used to manage virtual machines, multiple ESXi hosts, and all dependent components from a single centralized location. The vulnerability is due to the way it handles session tokens. While the company urges its customers to immediately apply the security patch to fix the vulnerability, threat actors started scanning the internet for vulnerable systems. The threat intelligence firm Bad Packets reported that scanning activity for this vulnerability started immediately after the virtualization giant addressed the flaw. Researchers from Bleeping Computer also reported that threat actors have started to exploit CVE 2021-26085 using code released by security researcher Jang. You might recall that was in my last weekly as well. If you have not yet watched that episode and you use VMware vCenter, then here is the link above, and it's pinned in the comment section below. I also did exactly a daily about the VMware vCenter flaw. Researchers from Threat Fabric found in July a new Android banking Trojan dubbed Ermac that is almost fully based on the popular banking Trojan Cerberus. The source code of Cerberus was released in September 2020 on underground hacking forums after its operators failed an auction. According to the experts, Ermac is operated by threat actors behind the BlackRock mobile malware. On August 17th, 2 forum members named Ermac and Duke Eugene started advertising the malware. Duke Eugene posted the following message in his account. Android botnet Ermac. I'll rent a new Android botnet with wide functionality to a narrow circle of people. 10 people. $3,000 per month. Duke Engine is a threat actor known to be behind the BlackRock banking Trojan. Ermac differs from Cerberus in the usage of different obfuscation techniques and blowfish encryption algorithm. The new banking Trojan supports the same latest Cerberus commands, except for a couple of commands that allow to clear the content of the cache. At the time of writing, Threat Fabric researchers, with the help of support at Malware Hunter Team Twitter handle, experts determined that Ermac is only targeting Poland, where it's being distributed under the guise of delivery service and government applications. The new banking Trojan can target over 300 banking and mobile apps. If the specified application and with the specified application, and it could steal device accounts. Researchers from Kaspersky have spotted a new malware dubbed Bloody Stealer that is being used by threat actors to steal accounts for multiple gaming platforms, including Steam, Epic Games Store, GOG Galaxy, EA Origin, and more. The InfoStealer is available for sale on dark web forums. The researchers explained that the malware allows operators to harvest a broad range of information, including cookies, passwords, bank cards, and sessions from various applications. Stolen data are later sold by the operators in underground marketplaces. Gaming accounts are in demand in the cybercrime ecosystem. Gaming login credentials to popular platforms such as Steam, Origin, Ubisoft, and Epic Games can be bought for $14.2 per 1,000 accounts when sold in bulk, and for 1 to roughly 30% of an account's value when sold individually. Bloody Stealer is offered through a malware as a service model. It is offered for less than $10 for a 1-month subscription, or $40 for a lifetime subscription. The researchers explained that the malware implements several anti-analysis methods, including the use of packets or packers and anti-debugging techniques. Below is the list of capabilities advertised by the developer of the malware. The ad highlights the following features of Bloody Stealer, which have been translated from Russian as is with no grammatical corrections. Grabber for cookies, passwords, forms, bank cards from browsers. Stealer for all information about the PC and screenshots. Steals sessions from the following clients: Bethesda, Epic Games, GOG, Origin, Steam, Telegram, VMware. Steals files from the desktops.txt files and the uTorrent client. Collects logs from the memory, duplicates logging protection, or duplicate logging protection, reverse engineering protection, and not functional in the CIS. Now, according to Kaspersky, various threat actors rented the malware and used it as a part of other malware attack chains. The researchers observed attackers using the malware in attacks aimed at delivering Keybase or Agent Tesla. In some cases, crooks combined the stealer component with other malware families and protected it with other packers, such as Themida. Once the data is exfiltrated, Bloody Stealer will send them to a command and control server. Then cyber criminals can access the stolen info by using Telegram or via a web panel. Bloody Stealer is being used in attacks targeting victims from Europe, Latin America, and the Asia-Pacific region. Visual Studio Code Remote Developer allows users to adopt a container, remote machine, or the Windows subsystem for Linux, or WSL, as a full-featured development environment. Users can develop on the same operating system you deploy to, or use larger or more specialized hardware. You could separate your development environment to avoid impacting your local machine configuration. You can make it easy for new contributors to get started and keep everyone on a consistent environment. You can use tools or runtimes not available on your local operating system or manage multiple versions of them. You can develop your Linux deployed applications using the Windows subsystem for Linux. You can access an existing development environment from multiple machines or locations. And you can debug an application running somewhere else, such as a customer site or in the cloud. So it's a very versatile tool. However, security experts from cybersecurity firm Shielder discovered that Visual Studio Code Remote Development Extension version 1.50 fails to sanitize the host field passed as an argument of the SSH command. A threat actor could exploit this issue, tracked as CVE-2021-26084, to inject a proxy command option that could result in the execution of arbitrary commands. The security advisory published by Microsoft states that an attacker would have to convince a user with the Visual Studio Code Remote Deployment Extension installed to click on a specially crafted link. But as we all know, people are busy, they're not always paying attention, so convincing somebody to click on a link is really not that difficult today. According to the security expert Abdel Adim Swari Oisfi, the argument injection resides in the Remote SSH extension, which is used and installed by the Remote Development 1. A malware campaign targeting Android devices in the United States and Canada with convincing text messages and links that lead to a downloader has highlighted the danger from SMS spam and phishing, securities expert report. The campaign, dubbed Tanglebot, uses coronavirus-themed messages to convince users to click a link, which leads to websites that attempt to collect sensitive information from the victim, according to the researchers from email and messaging security firm CloudMark in a September 23rd analysis. The campaign follows attempts by attackers to use SMS phishing, also known as smishing, to perpetrate unemployment insurance fraud in the U.S. Remote work has made SMS attacks easier for fraudsters in many ways, says Jacinta Tobin, Vice President of Global Sales and Operations at the CloudMark division of Proofpoint. In the Tanglebot case, once the malware compromises a machine, the attacker can monitor many user activities, such as websites they have visited and passwords they've entered, as well as record audio from the microphone and video from the camera. Tanglebot also uses many levels of obfuscation to make analysis difficult, such as placing code in hidden files, bulking up files with unused code, and removing the spaces from the code, a technique known as minification. The capabilities also enable the theft of considerable personal information directly from the device and through the camera and microphone spying on the victim, CloudMark's analysis stated. Harvesting of personal information and credentials in this manner is extremely troublesome for mobile users because there is a growing market on the dark web for detailed personal and account data. Tanglebot does not exploit flaws in the Android system, but it socially engineers users to click through multiple dialogues. Now, if you recall, there have been a number of stories that been within this weekly that have that same thing for Android devices. It doesn't exploit any vulnerability. It just uses social engineering to trick you into clicking through and allowing permissions to let this app or this malware do stuff on your computer, and then ultimately gain control of all of these services. Depending on how the Android device is configured, as many as 9 different dialog boxes and security alerts would have to be clicked to complete the installation of the software. While on its face, such a chain of notifications would appear sufficient, experience has shown users have become accustomed to clicking through warnings. Based on what we've seen with similar mobile malware attacks recently, such as Flubot attacks that have been active in the UK and Europe, users tend to disregard the multiple warnings and permissions and still download and install software from untrusted sources. Proofpoints Topin says. Case in point, Flubot, we talked about it. Here, I did a daily on it. And here again, we have an app that has similar tactics of just basically saying, I don't need a vulnerability, I just need to get some sucker to follow and click through any warnings. Now, not all attacks on messaging apps require so many steps. Other attackers have found ways to use vulnerabilities in messaging apps on both Apple and Android phones to conduct zero-click or one-click attacks in which just receiving a malicious message or just clicking on a link in a message is enough to compromise the device. Cybersecurity researchers from Morphisec have spotted a new version of the Jupyter info stealer that continues to be highly evasive. In November 2020, researchers at Morphisec had spotted Russian-speaking threat actors that have been using a piece of .NET info stealer tracked as Jupyter to steal information from their victims. The Jupyter malware is able to collect data from multiple applications, including major browsers, Chromium-based browsers, Firefox, and Chrome, and is also able to establish a backdoor on the affected system. Jupyter is an info stealer that primarily targets Chromium, Firefox, and Chrome browser data. However, its attack chain, delivery, and loader demonstrate additional capabilities for full backdoor functionality, reads the analysis published by Morphisec. These include a command and control client or command and control server client, download and execute malware, execution of PowerShell scripts and commands, and hollowing shellcode into legitimate Windows configuration applications. The experts spotted the info stealer during a routine incident response process in October, but according to forensic data, earlier versions of the info stealer have been developed since May. The malware was continuously updated to evade detection and include new information stealing capabilities. The most recent version was created in early November. On the 8th of September 2021, the researchers observed a new delivery chain that was able to avoid detection by using an MSI payload that executes a legitimate installation binary of Nitro Pro 13. 2 of the variants analyzed by the researchers is assigned with a valid certificate issued to a Polish business named Tackle Parts SP Zoo. Another variant analyzed by the experts was signed with a revoked certificate named 00 Sistema. One of the major U.S. ports, the Port of Houston, revealed that it was hit by a cyber attack in August that had no impact on its systems. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Director Jen Easterly disclosed the attack at a Senate committee hearing Thursday morning. She believed the attack was conducted by a nation-state actor that exploited a zero-day flaw in a Zoho user authentication device. Senator Rob Portman, a Republican of Ohio, expressed concerns about attacks against critical infrastructure and urges the U.S. authorities to push back against these nation-state actors who continue to probe and to commit these crimes against our public and private sector entities. In mid-September, the FBI, CISA, and the Coast Guard Cyber Command, or CG Cyber, issued a joint advisory to warn that nation-state app groups are actively exploiting a critical vulnerability tracked as CVE-2021-26084 in the Zoho Managed Engine Ad Self-Service Plus software. Now, if you recall, I have talked about this in one of my dailies. A managed engine, add self-service, plus is self-service password management and single sign-on solution. If you remember, as I said, I did an episode on this issue. Now, if you'd like to watch it, the link is above and it is pinned in the comment section below. Researchers from Google's threat analysis group reported that financially motivated actors are using new code signing tricks to evade detection. By code signing executables, it is possible to verify their integrity and provide information about the identity of the signer. The experts noticed that the technique was employed by operators behind OpenSUSupdater, which is a known family of unwanted software. The threat actors aimed at infecting as many users as possible. Most of the targets appeared to be US users interested in downloading game cracks and gray area software. The researchers noticed that OpenSUSupdater samples were often signed with the same code signing certificate, but since mid-August they noticed that the executables had an invalid signature. Further investigation revealed that the invalid signature was used in the attempt to evade detection. Now, the researchers explained that security products using OpenSSL to extract signature information will consider this encoding invalid. However, some parsers consider these valid encodings, allowing to validate the digital signature of the executables. This is what happens in Windows operating system. Experts explain that this is the first time it has spotted attackers using this technique to evade detection. OpenSUSupdater's authors have employed different variations on invalid encodings over time to evade detection. 2 newly discovered malicious Android applications on Google Play Store have been used to target users of Brazil's instant payment ecosystem in a likely attempt to lure victims into fraudulently transferring their entire account balances into another bank account under cybercriminals' control. The attackers distributed 2 different variants of banking malware named PixStealer and MallRhino through 2 separate malicious applications to carry out their attacks. Checkpoint Research said in an analysis shared with the Hacker News. Both malicious applications were designed to steal money of the victims through user interaction and the original Pix application. The 2 apps in question, which were uncovered in April 2021, have since been removed from the App Store. PixStealer, which was found distributed on Google Play as a fake PagBank cashback service app, is designed to empty a victim's funds to an actor-controlled account, while MallRhino, masquerading as a mobile token app for Brazil's Interbank, comes with advanced features necessary to collect the list of installed apps and retrieve pins for specific banks. Now, when a user opens their PixBank application, PixStealer shows the victim an overlay window where the user can't see the attacker's moves. The researcher said, behind the overlay window, the attacker retrieves the available amount of money and transfers the money, often the entire account balance, to another account. We move on to other security news. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has released the Insider Risk Mitigation Self-Assessment Tool, a new tool that allows organizations to assess their level of exposure to insider threats. Insider threats pose a severe risk to the organization. The attacks are carried out by current or former employees, contractors, or others with inside knowledge. For this reason, they are not easy to detect. An attack from insiders could compromise sensitive information, cause economic losses, damages the reputation of the organization, theft of intellectual property, reduction of market share, and even physical harm to people. The tool elaborates the answers of the organizations to a survey about their implementations of a risk program management for insider threats. The tool allows organizations to create their own programs to prevent and mitigate insider threats, and CISA provides further info and tools to mitigate insider threat risks that are available on its website. Virtual private networks allow users to remotely connect to a corporate network via a secure tunnel. Through this tunnel, users can take advantage of the internal services and protections normally offered to on-site users, such as email, collaboration tools, sensitive document repositories, and perimeter firewalls and gateways. Because remote access VPN servers are entry points into protected networks, they are targets for adversaries. The National Security Agency and CISA have released the Cybersecurity Information Sheet called Selecting and Hardening Standards-Based Remote Access VPN Solutions to address the potential security risks associated with using virtual private networks. Again, remote access VPN servers allow off-site users to tunnel into protected networks, making these entry points vulnerable to exploitation by malicious cyber actors. Exploitation of these devices can enable credential harvesting, remote code execution on the VPN device, cryptographic weakening of encrypted traffic sessions, hijacking of encrypted traffic sessions, arbitrary reads of sensitive data like configurations, credential keys from the device. The two agencies created the document to help organizations improve their defenses, particularly against attacks from nation-state adversaries, who in the past have exploited bugs in VPN systems to steal credentials, remotely execute code, weaken encrypted traffic cryptography, hijack encrypted traffic sessions, and read sensitive data from the device. The document provides direction for selecting VPN solutions that follow the industry standards and the best practices for using strong authentication credentials. Now, you might recognize this from being an article from one of my dailies. I highly recommend you watch the full episode to get more details about exactly what their recommendations are to find the right VPN solution for you. The link for that episode is above, and again, pinned in the comment section below. German Federal Office for Information Security, or BSI, is launching an investigation into the cybersecurity of mobile phones of certain Chinese manufacturers. Huawei! The investigation was requested by both the SPD politicians Jens Zimmerman and the CDU digital politician Tancred Shepansky. The decision of the BSI comes after the Lithuanian Cyber Defense published a report claiming that some mobile phones that are commercialized by Xiaomi and Huawei revealed an undocumented behavior that was possible to trigger remotely by the Chinese vendors. Lithuanian government experts have analyzed 3 specific smartphone models: the Huawei PG5G, P40 5G, the Xiaomi Mi10T 5G, and the OnePlus 8T 5G. According to the report, Xiaomi phones could be instructed to censor terms such as "Long Live Taiwan Independence" or "Free Tibet." A BSI spokesman told Tagesschau that Chinese manufacturers are already excluded from a list of smartphone vendors that can be officially ordered as service phones by the federal authorities. Experts fear that Chinese manufacturers could have also introduced in their devices hidden features that could give them deep access to any communications to the mobile phones before they were encrypted. With that, I say thanks for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.